Let's talk about Throne and Liberty for a bit. It is a new MMORPG from NCSoft, the company that made Aion and also works on Aion 2 now. A few days ago, the open beta could be played, and I decided to test it. I put a couple hours into the game and reached level 20, which is still far away from the max level of 50, but I got a glimpse into what this game is. I want to talk about various different topics, and you can find the timestamps below if you want to hear about something specific. Now, story-wise, I didn't care a single bit about the lore or story in this game. Shortly said, it was simply uninteresting and I skipped almost all texts after reaching level 5 or so. Then we have these weird transformations, where if you sprint, you transform into a wolf. If you jump from somewhere high, you can glide down as an eagle. Or if you jump into deeper water, you transform into an otter. I don't think it is even explained why you can do that in the story. It is simply a fact, but that doesn't even matter. I personally think they should go away from this transformation thing. And I'm not even talking about Throne and Liberty itself, but it seems like NCSoft has this transformation fantasy, which they simply do not want to let go of. For example, you also have the transformation candies and later the transformation scrolls in Aion, with the transformation being a necessity in certain retail patches. I always dislike these transformations because I've created my character to play as him and not to run around as a penguin or something for 90% of my game time. But I assume these transformations are simply there for monetization purposes. Now let's go to the big topic, the combat system. I personally like tap target combat more than the action combat system that newer MMOs have these days, because it still had some kind of difficulty, but you didn't have to be really locked into the game. And I think that is what MMORPGs are mostly for. A more relaxed time where you can log in every day and just farm, collect stuff, run dungeons, and if you want more of a challenge, simply do harder content like difficult raids or PvP or something. With action combat, you need more focus for doing anything in the game. It's not all bad, like undoubtedly action combat, if done right, requires way more skill than usual tap target MMORPGs. And I think having an opportunity to show more skill in the game is a good thing. The question that remains is if MMORPGs are the right audience for this. We drifted off roads there for a moment, so let's actually talk about the combat system in Throne and Liberty. We can equip two weapons and get skills associated with the weapons that you have equipped. You can then freely switch between those weapons by simply using a skill of the weapon you want to switch to. So you can, for example, use a bow skill, use a greatsword skill, and then use a bow skill again to switch between those weapons very smoothly in only a second or two. So it doesn't feel as clunky as it does with switching weapons in Aion, for example. A lot of you may know this weapon or skill system from the game New World. And this system, or at least a similar one, will also be used in Aion 2. While the weapon switching is very smooth, the combat itself feels a bit clunky, and many people think this is because the game usually had integrated autoplay or auto combat. But due to the big backlash, it was changed and transformed into the action combat system we have now, where you still see or kind of feel the auto combat system in the background. Due to this, I had a love-hate relationship with the combat system. Sometimes I loved it because it felt very smooth as a ranged class, but then it also felt very clunky sometimes, which is especially noticeable when you play a melee class. Here we come to a new topic, which is actually very positive for the game. The graphic quality and the performance. The game looks really good. The weapons, the armor, the skill effects, all of those look very good quality-wise. Maybe they could make it a bit more stylized, with which I mean that they should put a unique style into this world. Because in a game where you can transform into a wolf, an eagle, and an otter, you should have a fantasy feel to the world, and not have it look like any other generic medieval world. But all in all, it is great and a huge plus for the game. While we are at praising the game, let's talk about performance. It is outstanding and so surprising to me how they could make the game so beautiful with so many players at the same time, and all of this without any lags or any kind of performance issues. And while my PC is a bit above average, we also tested it on an old PC of my girlfriend. And this old PC, which has trouble with games like Dragon Age or ETS 2 on the lowest settings, could actually run the game and play it well. And these are such good news, not only because we are now in a world where games are released that are horribly optimized, but also this opens the option for big scale battles, like world bosses, big raids, siege battles, and such. So I'm absolutely hyped for this potentially being an option. Overall, I think the game is okay, but I don't think it will survive for long in the Western market with what it has to show for itself right now. Especially when you consider that NCSoft is known for bringing a lot of pay to win into their games. Many people have already covered this, and I will not go into this in detail. Simply said, it is very pay to win, even though it is not as bad as something like Lost Ark, for example. Now let's move on to why does the Throne and Liberty beta concern me in regards to Aion 2. As someone that loves the old Aion game, I would want to see a newer and better version of Aion in the new Aion 2 game. But even though Aion 2 is different, this does not necessarily mean that it is better. I'm sure it will be much better in many ways, like the graphic quality and such, but the really important question is, will the combat system be as good or even better than in the old Aion game? Initially, the Aion 2 game was planned as a mobile game, but it got completely reworked and is now a PC game that got even upgraded from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. But even though it is mainly a PC game now, it still has some optional way to play it mobile. We do not know the extent or what they exactly mean with that, but most people assume that the combat system therefore will be pretty easy since they can't make it a usual MMORPG standard if it is also playable mobile. People are concerned that it will be similar to the Throne and Liberty combat system that also got turned from full autoplay to action combat that still feels somewhat clunky due to its roots being from the autoplay system. All of this sounds pretty bad like that, but we can also look at it in a positive way. Since they now experience the big backlash and the failure from Throne and Liberty in Korea, where the game is basically already dead, and most likely a similar thing will happen in the West as well, it already shows that they are working non-stop with a huge manpower on Aion 2, their new flagship title. Because another failure like Throne and Liberty would really not be good for the company. The stress and fear of failing again could mean that Aion 2 will be released in a very polished way. Now maybe that is copium, but I really hope the best for Aion 2, and in the end we can only wait and see. I will leave it here for now. If any news arise about Aion 2, I will keep you up to date, but until then, see you on Friday for the next lore video.